Hey, good morning, boys and girls. We're going to do day 1 and day 2 of this week's morning work. Um, and I want to tell you right off the bat that I apologize for this copy because the question with the straw and the ruler is really impossible to read, even for me, on the original copy. So we're going to go ahead and cross that out. And I hope that that didn't give you too many problems. So don't worry about that if you couldn't read that ruler. It's very tiny and a little blurry. So go ahead and cross that out. We're going to start with the first one. It's a regular 3-digit plus 3-digit equation, and we're going to use the algorithm to solve that. So I'm going to line my numbers up according to place value, the ones in the ones column, tens in the tens column, hundreds in the hundreds columns. 396 plus 474, and we'll see if we have to regroup it all. So if I add the ones, 6 ones plus 4 ones is 10 ones. Yep, 10 ones means the same as 110 and 0 ones left over. Then I add the tens, 110 plus 9 tens plus 7 tens is actually 17 tens. So that means 7 tens in 100. And then last but not least, I will add my hundreds. 3 hundreds plus 100 is 400 plus 4 more is 800, 870. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is a fraction 1. And when I look here, I see 2 wholes. This is 1 whole, and this is a second whole. So remember, we determine our unit by how many equal parts are in 1 whole. So 1 whole has 2 equal parts. Count them: 1, 2. So if there's 2 equal parts, they are called halves. And I'm going to go ahead and label mine. If you didn't do that, you might want to do that now. It will make your answer much more clear. So every time we do fractions, we want to start with that same process. Find your whole, count the number of equal parts, identify your unit fraction, and then label them. And then hopefully whatever question you're being asked becomes a little bit more clear and easier to you. So they're saying these 2 wholes that are divided into halves gives us how many halves? Our denominator here is a half. So we count them: 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves. And so our answer is 4 halves. I don't know, somebody might have got stumped on that one, but hopefully now that I went over it, I've cleared up any misunderstandings you might have. Okay, the last question for day 1 is complete the related multiplication facts. So I have this division fact, 20 divided by 5. And if I don't know that, I can certainly think to myself, 5 times what equals 20? Well, that's 5 times 4. Remember, I can skip count: 5, 10, 15, 20. Skip count till I get to 20, count my fingers, that's 4. So that means 5 times 4 is 20. The next one is 18 divided by 9 equals. And so I need to find the missing multiplication factor, the factor. So it's 9 times what? Well, I can do 9, 18. My answer is 2. And the last one, 36 divided by 4, the related multiplication factor would be 4 times what? Again, I could skip count by 4s: 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. Hard for me to lift up that last finger, and so that is 9. All right. If you also just think of your multiplication facts and you have them memorized, that should help you figure out the missing factor to go in those division equations. All right. Day 2, moving on. Here's a rounding equation, a rounding question rather. And remember, the most important thing is to know what place you're rounding to. So I hope when you did this, you read round each number to the nearest 10, then add. I hope you underline nearest 10. That shows me your thinking. It brings to your attention what you're being asked to do. So if I look at 701, I want to round that to the nearest 10. Well, it's either 700 or 710. It's only 1 away from 700, so I'm going to round it to 700. That would also be the nearest 100. Once in a while that happens. Now my next number is 109. I'm going to either round that to 100 or 110. Well, 109 is only 1 away from 110, so I'll round it to 110. And then finally I have to add those 2 numbers, and I can do that mentally. 700 plus 110 is, that's right, 810. If you can't do it mentally, feel free to put the algorithm on some open space on your page. Moving on, the next question, divide the square into sixths. And as soon as I hear the word sixth, I think 6 equal parts. Okay, it says label each 6 with the appropriate fraction, which is what we ask you to do all the time anyways. So I'm going to take this square and I'm going to divide it into 3 equal parts first. do the best I can to make them equal. And now I could make these even smaller by drawing more vertical lines, but I can also do this to split them each in half. And if I do that, I will end up with 6 equal parts, and then that makes it really easy for me to label. I have more room. Each one will be 1/6. Why? Because they're 6 equal parts. If you want to do it the other way, you would just have 6 really skinny vertical rectangles in your square, which would also be fine, just makes it a little harder to label them. Okay, 6 equal parts gives us 6. Okay, moving on. We have another fraction question. We've been doing a lot of this the last week or so. Write less than, greater than, or equal to make the statement true. So when I look at my first circle, I count the number of equal parts. Remember, it's the process we start with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 equal parts. So that means they are, that's right, they're 6. And I could go and label all these, but it's kind of tiny. So I'm just going to say that one of them is shaded, so that will be 1/6. And I'm going to write the fraction underneath. Again, shows my thinking, helps me keep my work organized. When I look at my second circle, please note that they're identical in size. So that makes sure that we can compare them because our holes are the same. There are 3 equal parts. 3 equal parts makes thirds, and 1 is shaded, so that would be 1/3. And now I have to compare them. And I have to tell you, boys and girls, I've been teaching math for a long time, and I learned a new way. If you struggle with greater than or less than, I learned a new way to try to figure out how to write those symbols. So I was watching a video, and they said, which one is larger? Well, the 1/3 is larger. We can tell by comparing the shaded portions. So you put 2 dots by the value that's larger. You put 1 dot by the value that's smaller, and then you connect the dots like this, and there's your symbol. Okay. Now, there's a lot of ways for people to use some kind of strategy or trick to help them memorize this. Some people say this is an alligator's mouth, and he wants to eat the bigger number. I look at this and I just see a fat side going towards the bigger value and a little tiny point going towards a smaller value. That's my visual to help me remember. Whatever works best for you, though. Okay. Last one, a word problem. It says a group of 6 families attended a basketball game together. What am I thinking of right now, picturing in my head? 6 families. I'm already kind of wondering, I wonder how many people are in each family and if they're going to tell me that. After the game, they went out to dinner. If there are 7 people in each family, there's that thing I was wondering about. How many people went to dinner? Well, this sounds like a classic equal group problem. We have 6 families, 7 people in each family. So I can write a number sentence for this. Also could draw a picture. If I drew a picture, I would do a tape diagram with 6 units, or I might draw 6 circles, put a 7 inside each one. The circles represent the 6 families. The 7 inside each one represents the 7 people in each family. And then go ahead and write a number sentence that you would use, if you haven't already, to find your answer for that. Okay, the number sentence I would write would be 6 groups of, multiplication sign says groups of, 7 equals, and that's that fact that was up on the board. Remember when we left school, everybody's supposed to be very fluent in that one. 6 times 7 is 42. We looked at that every day. So that's when we really want to commit to memory. So how many people went out to dinner? I would write 42. And that's a naked number. So, you know, I would probably, if you didn't fill that in, I would write a line here that would indicate dress up your number. So it's 42 what? 42 people. There we go. And that's day 1 and 2 of your morning work, boys and girls. Pretty easy this week. I hope that you didn't struggle with too many of those. Fractions are a newer skill, so maybe they gave you a little bit of trouble, but I hope I cleared up your misunderstandings as we walked through this day 1 and day 2 today.